What's up, guys? I'm coming at you with another tier list video. This time I'm doing one of my favorite characters in Smash and one of the characters I have the most hours in, Banjo and Kazooie. Now, a lot of people would say that Banjo's kind of bad, and I agree, but I thought it'd be fun to make this matchup chart to see how I think he fares against the rest of the cast. I do have a lot of time in this character, mostly on Wi-Fi, but I have used him offline a couple of times, so I have a pretty good deal of experience with most of these characters. And for the ones that I don't, I guess I'll just theorycraft or something. But yeah, so as opposed to the last video I made for Bowser, which was like 4 something hours, I'm going to split this one up into a series. So I'm going to do it in order of how the characters appear on the character select screen. So yeah, we're going to go from Mario, go from there, and the next video will be the next row. So really excited to do this. I want you guys to see just how bad I think Banjo is. These are the -2s, so these are characters that really beat Banjo. These -1 means they kind of beat Banjo, but it's a bit more doable. 0 is even, so it could go either way. +1, slightly winning for Banjo. +2, Banjo beats pretty hard. I don't think that there's many characters in here at all. But yeah, let's just get into it. Who better to start the list with than Mario? He beats Banjo. Wow. So this is definitely a losing matchup. I think the things that hurt Banjo in this matchup are Mario having a reflector, which you'll see in this video. General rule of thumb, if a character has a reflector against Banjo, it's gonna hurt. Banjo's entire game plan is based around projectile spamming, so if you're not able to consistently do that, yeah, the character is gonna give Banjo some trouble. So there's that. Also, Mario's combos are just really deadly overall, and Banjo is a bit on the heavier side and prone to getting hit by stuff like that. So the combos are just really good. So those things coupled with Mario just being a better character, just out tier listing Banjo, yeah, I would say that it's a losing matchup. But I put it in -1, not -2, because I think it is one of the more doable losing matchups. Mario's reflector, it's not, say, a spacey reflector where it covers both sides and it lingers like Fox and Wolf. It's more like he has to time it and it only covers the front of him, so it's not as threatening of a reflector, it feels like, when you play him, but it's still very good against Banjo. I'm not saying it's not good, but it's a bit more manageable, it feels like, than Fox, Wolf, or Zelda, somebody like that. Also, Banjo's tilts are kind of like sword moves, so his tilts are really good for spacing Mario out, and Banjo's ledge trapping works fairly well against him too. You can 2-frame Mario up B on the way up. So yeah, I think it's a bad matchup, but more on the doable side than the -2s that you'll see here. The leader of the bunch, you know him well, and he actually loses to Banjo, which is really sad for DK. I think that this is a solid matchup for Banjo because DK doesn't really get to play his game. Banjo just zones him out the whole time, spaces him out with eggs and tilts, and it's really hard for DK to get in. And then when DK is off stage or at the ledge, Banjo kind of just has his way with him. He can 2-frame him very easily, he can run off and hit him with an aerial when he has to up B. Ledge trapping is kind of free against DK. Yeah, Banjo just kind of has his way with the character because DK just has such a hard time landing and dealing with projectiles and recovering, and Banjo is pretty good at exploiting those things. So, oh my god, a winning matchup for Banjo. Who ever would have thought this would happen? I actually don't think this is free for Banjo though, because DK's advantage state is just really good, and if he catches you whiffing a Wonder Wing or just grabs you on stage, you're susceptible to all the same stuff everybody else is. You get clapped up, slapped up, tossed around by DK. So I think DK does have a bit of a kick in the matchup, but it's still hard because Banjo's zoning and ledge trapping, and also Wonder Wing, meaning Banjo's recovery is uncontestable at most 5 times per stock. That's not good for DK, who's pretty good at edge guarding with that back air or an offstage spike. So yeah, Banjo, it's possible Banjo might +2 DK, but in my experience, it feels like DK can do a lot of damage when he does get in, and he does have a bit of range with like his tilts, so maybe not the worst matchup for DK ever, probably not, but I still think it's one of Banjo's rare winning matchups. So this one's a little interesting. I don't really have that much experience in this matchup, if I'm being honest, compared to a lot of other characters, because I think this character, Link, is a bit more on the niche side. He's a bit more uncommon than a lot of other characters, and so is Banjo, really, so I don't get to play or see this matchup all too often. If I had to guess, though, I would say it's probably pretty even, because they're both kind of the same sort of character. They're both heavier zoners that rely on active projectiles to ledge trap or set up with, or whatever the case is. So their game plans are somewhat similar. I could imagine Banjo is probably pretty good at edge guarding Link maybe, or hitting his up B with a 2-frame maybe. But again, something I'm lacking a bit of practice in. Just off the top of my head, I could see it being even. I don't know. I haven't really played this matchup all too much. I think that they're kind of similar characters though, but Link is a better character overall, I'd say. So if I had to give the edge to anybody, it might be Link, but I don't know. I feel like Banjo, this isn't one of the matchups I think of when I think of a hard Banjo matchup. So I'll put it in even for now. So this next one might be a hot take, but I actually do have a lot of Wi-Fi experience against Samus. I've played a lot of Wi-Fi Samus in my day, and having played this matchup as much as I have online, and a little bit offline, I actually think that it's dead even. I think that both of these characters sort of do similar things almost. Samus is obviously a much better character, but they both try to zone you out and annoy the hell out of you with their projectiles. You try to jump against them and you just get hit with a multi-hit aerial. In Banjo's case, Nair or back air, and Samus fair or up air. So they are kind of similar, just like Link and Banjo. Both heavy zoners, really good ledge trapping too. Samus being one of the best ledge trappers in the game, and Banjo having ledge trapping. So that's pretty good for Banjo, I think. One other thing about the matchup is Samus charge shot, regardless of how much it's charged, will always clank with grenade egg, so they just cancel each other out. So that's pretty good for Banjo, considering Samus has to charge shot all the way up, and Banjo can just let grenades rip whenever he wants. So you can kind of just always have an answer to Samus charge shot. It's pretty good. Both these characters beat each other at ledge. Their zoning tools are just really annoying to deal with. So yeah, I think all things considered, it feels like a really even matchup. Next up, we got Yoshi. Honestly, I think that Yoshi probably just beats Banjo. It's not an undoable matchup by any means, but Yoshi just feels kind of annoying to fight. I mean, he's just a way better character. He can grab you out of Wonder Wing too with his command grab, or I guess regular grab too, which is pretty annoying. Like, you have to time it, but it's still an option that you can do. It's not as degenerate as some other grabs against Wonder Wing, but it's still there. And double jump armor is just really annoying in general. So yeah, not too much experience in this matchup, honestly, offline. Most of my experience against Yoshi is elite smasher Yoshi players that don't really know what they're doing. But in my head, what I can imagine, I could just see Yoshi just beating him. I mean, he's just better character, better options, better combos, just better. So yeah, I think Yoshi just beats him. Sorry if you wanted a more detailed explanation. That's all I really got for you right now. I just think Yoshi wins the matchup, and that's really it. Kirby. I actually think Banjo does win against Kirby. I think it's a solid +1. The reasons being, so Kirby, in order to actually work as a character and function, Kirby needs to pretty much get in on you. He needs to be on top of you, grabbing you, hitting you with his grab combos, etc. Banjo does a really good job at keeping Kirby out. He could just zone out with his projectiles, use his tilts to get him off him and space him out. So yeah, I think overall Banjo's kit does just counteract Kirby's, because Kirby needs to get in and Banjo's fairly good at keeping you out. Kirby's edge guarding is also pretty good with his down air, but when you have Wonder Wing, you're essentially unable to be edge guarded 5 times per stock if that's how you choose to use your Wonder Wing. So yeah, he can't really do much against Banjo Wonder Wing. What he can do though is use his Inhale to grab you out of Wonder Wing, because, you know, like I've said a couple times, command grabs or grabs in general, they just beat Wonder Wing, they just stop the move from coming out. So he does have that in the matchup, and that could be pretty effective. But for the most part, I just think in neutral overall and off stage, Banjo just does a pretty good job against Kirby. Not unwinnable by any means for the Kirby player, but I would give a slight edge to Banjo here. Okay, Fox. Honestly, Fox shits on Banjo. This is one of Banjo's worst matchups. Spoiler, I think Banjo struggles against all the Spaceys, and Fox is definitely not an exception. Fox's frame data is just really good against Banjo. It feels like you get comboed a lot, and the juggling is ruthless. And the thing that makes it so hard, and one of Banjo's universal weaknesses, is he has a really good reflector. Fox's reflector is really good against Banjo. Comes out quickly, you can hold it as long as you need. If they have a good reflector, they can pretty much invalidate Banjo's entire neutral. Yeah, his entire neutral. Because if I can't sit there and shit out eggs, what am I supposed to do? What am I gonna brawl with Fox? Am I gonna use my tilts or something? It just doesn't work. So that's basically the big thing right there. And the reason that I think it's such a hard matchup is because Fox is able to just invalidate Banjo's neutral. Banjo's some strengths in the matchup, I guess. You know, Fox's recovery, that's his universal weakness. So if you can time your 2 framing options, like down tilt or down smash, yeah, you can hit Fox's recovery. You could drop down and hit it with an aerial and force him to tech into the stage. But I don't know. I feel like overall, that being Banjo's only real strength in the matchup is being able to hit his recovery, and then everything else you just get destroyed. Like, sure, Fox is a fastballer, you can get some cute combos on him. Yeah, that's fine, but I just think the cons far outweigh the pros in this matchup, and I think that that's a common theme among the Spaceys. Mostly because, honestly, their reflector, I think, for me personally, that's the hardest part of the matchup. But yeah, there's just not too much going for you in this matchup, so I'm going to have to put Fox as one of Banjo's hardest matchups. So this next one might be a bit of a hot take, but I think Pikachu is only a -1. I know, crazy. Not a -2, not a -3. What? It sounds insane, but okay, so let me just say personally, I'll take an army of Pikachus over one Fox or one Wolf with their annoying-ass reflector in the matchup. So that's one thing. Again, I really think one of Banjo's biggest weaknesses overall are characters that invalidate his neutral. Because his neutral is so centered around projectiles. That doesn't mean that characters without a reflector can't beat him. I mean, Pika still beats him. But it feels a bit more doable. And the reasons why are... So, one of Pikachu's greatest strengths is his edge guarding. And if you have Wonder Wing, you're, like I've said, basically unable to be edge guarded 5 times each stock, if that's how you end up using your Wonder Wing. So, yeah, there's that. Pika can't really edge guard you that efficiently as he can against other characters, like Bowser, for instance, my other main. So, not being able to be edge guarded is pretty big, and honestly, you can kind of try to zone out Pika, and your projectiles will plank with his T-Jolts, which is kind of okay, I guess. And yeah, that's really, I mean, I still think the stuff that Pika does well still works against Banjo, like the onstage lightning loops and things like that, the combos. Yeah, make no mistake, Pikachu does win this matchup, but I think being able to efficiently counter Pika's edge guarding and have some kind of a bit of an answer to T-Jolt, it makes it a little more bearable than having to play against a reflector character. So I put it here, but again, Pika, combos, movement, all that stuff, he still beats Banjo. But you can avoid getting edge guarded. You could hit some 2 frames at ledge maybe with down tilt or down smash. You could, if you're nice enough to catch Pika's recovery, that'll work too. So yeah, I don't think it's a free matchup for Pika, but it's definitely losing. Luigi. I actually think this matchup is probably just even. To be honest, if I had to give one character the edge, I would probably say Banjo slightly beats Luigi, but it'd be like a 0.5 kind of thing where it's really close to even. So I'm going to put it here. I think that Banjo, it's kind of sort of similar to Kirby, like I discussed before, in the sense that Luigi needs to get in on you. He needs to get up close to you and grab you. That's his entire win condition. So Banjo being a zoner with really annoying projectiles and some pretty good disjointed tilts, he can do a pretty good job of keeping Luigi out and just playing evasively the whole game and making Luigi's life hell. On top of that, he's also fairly decent at 2-framing Luigi's recovery, which is pretty good. I've 2-framed Luigi's up B with down smash a bunch of times, so there's that. He can pretty much, he's good at edge guarding Luigi basically, with whether hitting his recovery or even a runoff nair or something similar. Yeah, I think that Luigi is, it's a fairly even matchup. I mean, Luigi's combos, they're still gonna be, you know, his win condition. Banjo's not by any means a small character, and he doesn't have any escape options to get out of the combos or anything like that. So if he grabs you, you're probably gonna die or take 1,000,000 damage, just like most other characters would. So yeah, I think Luigi still can keep up in the matchup, but I don't know, maybe in the future I might move it to winning for Banjo, because if I see any character winning, it's definitely Banjo. But I still think it's a competitive matchup nonetheless. I just feel like Banjo's kit works pretty good against Luigi. But I don't know, maybe I need more offline experience. But from what I played, I'd rather honestly play this matchup than Bowser Luigi, because I can just keep Luigi out all day as Banjo. So I actually wanted to redo this next character once I set up the training mode mod pack, because there's a specific interaction that I want to show you guys. But Ness, I think Ness does slightly beat Banjo. Basically, I think it's quite as simple as Ness is just a much better character. His multi-hit aerials are good at stuffing out your approaches, and if you have to recover without Wonder Wing, you are going to die to Yo-Yo. It's just the way it is. I mean, Banjo has some pretty good stuff against Ness. He has his tilts, which are good in neutral, and also his ledge trapping / edge guarding against Ness is just really good. So it's not impossible, undoable for Banjo by any means. I think Ness does win though, just because he is just better character. The interaction that I want to talk about though does involve Ness and Banjo down B. Banjo down B being grenade and Ness down B being the absorb, PK magnet, whatever, that can heal Ness if you use it properly. So as you can see there, as Ness holds his down B, there is a hitbox kind of thing that's going off there. Basically, whether or not Ness will absorb the grenade and heal from it depends on whether or not the Banjo player times it so that the grenade does or doesn't hit that. So if you throw the grenade and it hits the hitbox, or I guess in that case doesn't hit the hitbox, then Ness will not heal from it and instead take knockback. Now, hopefully I get it. If you throw the grenade and it hits it like that, then Ness will heal from it. So in the heat of battle, it's kind of tricky. This interaction is a little weird because it's really hard on both sides to time that perfectly. So at least when I play it, a lot of times it feels sort of like RNG almost. But I guess if the Banjo is skilled enough, or Ness is skilled enough to be able to time that, I don't know, then it'll work in one or the other's favor. But I think that this is a really interesting interaction in the matchup because it sort of makes Ness down B a bit inconsistent against Banjo grenade, because sometimes you can just throw a grenade right through it. So it is interesting to note. Falcon Banjo is probably, honestly, it's probably just even. Reason being, Banjo is the kind of character that will try to zone you out and keep you out with his tilts and projectiles. And Falcon's win condition involves him basically holding forward and running in at you. Falcon doesn't have crazy disjoints, he doesn't have projectile, so he can't really afford to camp the way that Banjo can. So Falcon needs to get in on Banjo. And when he does, he can kind of destroy him. I mean, let's be real here. And he also has a command grab, which you can probably use that against Wonder Wing pretty well. Offstage Wonder Wing, up B with Falcon. Oh man, that might be a rough interaction for Banjo. So, yeah, Falcon has a lot of tools. The things that I think keep it even, though, are, like I said, the fact that Falcon needs to basically initiate. And also, Banjo's edge guarding against Falcon is actually pretty good. Run off neutral air, or if you could time your down Bs or up Bs even, like hit him with the spring part of up B, you can mess with Falcon's recovery pretty hard. And ledge trapping him also feels really good too. I like to just set up with grenade and try to read his options off ledge, and I find that it works pretty well on the Elite Smash Falcons. So, yeah, I think Banjo has enough to keep it competitive, but Falcon is a better character, which is something I will say. I've said a lot on this chart, and I will say more. He is a better character, and his tools against Banjo, they do work. The command grab, his combos, his explosiveness, Banjo has to worry about all of that. So it's not a winning matchup by any means. I just think that being able to combo Falcon well and edge guard him, and also kind of sort of being able to set the pace because Falcon needs to go in on you, yeah, I think it makes for an even matchup. The final matchup in this first video of my Banjo matchup chart is Jigglypuff. And I think that just about rounds out the 64 characters. So Puff, actually, I think that this is a winning matchup for Banjo. I think one of Banjo's few good matchups. Whoa! So why do I think that? Okay, so here's the biggest reason that I think Puff loses to Banjo. And it's as simple as this. Because of Wonder Wing, Puff can't really edge guard Banjo. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's situations where it will happen. Like if you get a good string on stage, or if they're out of Wonder Wing, yeah, you'll get an edge guard. But with Wonder Wing, it's really hard to actually edge guard Banjo. And I think probably Puff's biggest strength as a character, if not maybe one of their biggest strengths, is their edge guarding. Puff's edge guarding is crazy because you have multiple jumps, you have aerials that come out really fast and are easy to follow up after each other when you use them in the air. So, yeah. But Banjo having Wonder Wing kind of just invalidates that. So, I think that's really good. And then also Puff not really having any real range at all, or projectiles or reflector or any real utility against Banjo in neutral. You can kind of set the pace with your projectiles and just spamming and just keeping out Puff. And you could also stuff out Puff in the air with your area multi-hits. Kind of like Samus almost. You're like a shitty Samus. You got jump neutral air. That's a nice multi-hit move. Jump back air. And I feel like these are pretty decent at stuffing out Puff in the air. So that in neutral, it feels like Banjo's able to set the pace pretty well. And then off stage, you just can't edge guard Banjo. I actually, like, the more I think about this, this might be a pretty good matchup for Banjo. This might be one of Banjo's best somewhat relevant matchups. I mean, Puff is kind of obscure, but you know, you have base mage at top level, so there is some good rep for the character. So yeah, I think that Banjo does really good in this matchup. Honestly, I can't even really think of many upsides. I guess Puff can be kind of hard to get your hands on sometimes, but I don't know. Outside of that, I think Banjo just does really good. I'm hesitating to put it into +2 because I think for Banjo to +2 a character, it would have to be really that bad. And I still think Puff remains competitive in the matchup. But Banjo's strengths are pretty good here, so I'll leave it in -1. Okay, well, that concludes part 1 of my epic, amazing Banjo matchup chart. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I definitely obviously plan to release the next couple of parts of this video over the next few weeks or months or whatever. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to like, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please be nice. You know, if you don't agree with something I put, you don't need to insult me or anything. Just say, hey, Leon, I think that you might be wrong here, and here's why. And I love it. I love constructive feedback. So be sure to let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, share the video. I'm trying to get my YouTube going, so I appreciate all the support that I can get. But anyways, see you guys next time.